Stay with me in this video. In this video, I will show you how members of the Scottish National Party and establishment figures in Scotland have gone to bed with representatives of the Islamic Republic of Iran. In my last video, where I talked about the Policy Exchange think tank's 87-page report on Iran's network and operations in the UK in the last 20 years, I showed this picture of Major General Robert Bruce, the highest ranking British military man, sitting next to one of Iran's supreme leader's representatives in Britain, Ayatollah Shomali, at some luncheon occasion. And many of you have contacted me and asked more about when and where this had happened. As I said in my last video, this picture and the information about Major General Bruce was from the same Policy Exchange paper. It didn't elaborate as to where it was, but said it was in 2017. But it looks similar to a video of a conference in Scotland I have from 2016. The conference was called Peace and Unity. It seems it was organised by Iran. It was attended by Nicola Sturgeon and Ayatollah Araki, the first representative of Iran's supreme leader in Britain, who started the Islamic Centre in Maida Vale. You can't see him in the video as one of the speakers in the conference, but you can see that he was there from the description of the programme. As I said in my last video, Ayatollah Araki is a member of Iran's powerful body, the Assembly of Experts, which can decide the next supreme leader, and I very much suspect he has been given UK citizenship. I'm going to show you some of the speeches from the conference to show how Iran has bamboozled the British establishment and how senior British figures, Scottish ones in this instance, military high ranks, high-ranking police chiefs, and the likes of Nicola Sturgeon have gone to bed with Iran's Ayatollahs. One of the speakers is this guy, Said Reza Ameli. This guy is the architect of mandatory hijab and morality police in Iran. He's also a member of Iran's Islamic Cultural Council and cyberspace regulatory body. In other words, he decides what to block on the internet for people in Iran or when to shut it down. The Times of London had a good expose on him. I'll leave the link in the descriptions. But look at how he is introduced in this conference, as if he's the most revered academic. So this is Nicola Sturgeon just having made his speech and saying how happy she was to be in the conference. She's just gone off the podium. So now he introduces this Said Reza Ameli.
Our next guest speaker, representing the world proximity of Islamic schools of thought.
This world proximity of Islamic thought is actually an Iranian regime entity, and its purpose is to propagate and advocate for Khamenei's political Islam, especially in Muslim countries.
Has also a glittering CV. With a sociology background in academia, he now holds the Professor of Communications and North American Studies, as well as Director of UNESCO Chair of Cyberspace and Culture. It's an absolute fascinating and pleasure to welcome to the stage and to Scotland, Dr. Said Reza Ameli. Please welcome him.
In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So there you go. You think like it was the most revered academic, the way they introduced him. Nothing about his position in the Iranian regime or his track record on what he's done with regards to mandatory hijab. Now, let's just listen to what he had to say.
First of all, it's my honor to participate in very important event in Scotland. Minority discrimination.
So he's going on about minority discrimination. Now, listen to what he says.
It will cause majority discrimination. If we have a Islamophobic picture of Muslims, let's say in London, if we have a Islamophobic picture of Muslims in London, London has almost 1 million population of London are Muslims. If we have an Islamophobic picture of Muslims, the first thing comes to the majority society. They feel insecure.
Whenever they go on about minority discrimination, it's always Islamophobia. They never go on about any other religious minorities. They never go on about the religious minorities that are being discriminated against Iran in Iran. I'll explain more about that after we hear what he's got to say.
It's not only Muslim that will lose. The majority societies also will lose. So minority discrimination is majority discrimination as well. So to have a relaxed society, we really need to make everybody happy.
To make a relaxed society, you need to make everyone happy. Is that what the Iranian society is like? Is everyone relaxed in Iran, and you've made everyone happy in Iran, have you?
Minority, majority, and we have a very happy intercultural relations between the ethnic group, religious group, different denomination in the society.
So, I mean, this is so stomach churning for someone like me who knows about Iran and knows about this guy. So, you have religious minorities in Iran that are discriminated, starting from the Muslim Sunnis who are not Shia, as is the official state religion. Sunnis can't have a mosque in Tehran. You can't have a Sunni as Iran's president by Iran's own constitution. And then you've got the other religious minorities, Zoroastrians, Christians, Jewish, that are also discriminated against. And they can't, there's a lot of jobs that they can't do. And then going to the Baha'is, which are completely discriminated against. They're almost like person non grata in Iran. They have no rights as citizens. Their children are not allowed to go to have further education. They're not allowed to go to universities. Even when they try to have an online university, having lecturers from outside Iran teaching their children degree courses, etc. When they found out about it, they busted it and they imprisoned the people who were organising it. So these people are going on about minority discrimination, and the rest of these people, they're just sitting there like, clapping for them. Oh, such a nice speech and that. Now, the next person that speaks is another one of Iran's supreme leaders, representative in Britain, Ayatollah Shomali, who still lives in Britain. I think he's got citizenship as well. And let's see how they introduce him.
I am delighted we have a very qualified set of individuals sitting on the panel tonight. I will briefly introduce each member of the panel, starting on my immediate left, Superintendent Gregg Banks.
So I'll talk about this Superintendent Gregg Banks later. Let's just hear the way he introduces the panel.
Superintendent Banks has a vast experience in dealing with issues such as hate crime and radicalization.
He's got vast experience of hate crime and radicalization, and he's sitting next to a representative of a regime that spreads radicalism, spreads extremism and terrorism.
Our next member of the panel is a senior academic from Islamic seminaries.
Senior academic again. Nothing about his role, his position in Iran or anything.
In Qom, and has studied Western philosophy as well as
he's a philosopher,
writing several books and articles. Sheikh Shomali is also a very keen supporter of movements such as the Folklore movement, as we have representatives here today, and regular visits to the Vatican and other senior faith representatives among and promoting interreligious dialogue.
Interreligious dialogue again. There's no interreligious dialogue in Iran, but this guy has come to teach these people about interreligious dialogue in Scotland. So there you go. Another, looks like, academic is being introduced. Now, let's just hear what he has to say. He's asked, one of the questions he's asked is about civic liberties. Let's see how he answers this question.
I'm just going to move on to, again, our topic of community integration, and this one back to Sheikh Shomali. In terms of how important do you think community integration is rather than assimilation? Is there a danger that a reduction in civic liberties will result in the polarization of individuals and communities that countries such as France has suffered over the past century?
So he's talking about reduction of civic liberties in France, but doesn't ask him any question about reduction of civic liberties in Iran since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, where people have lost their personal freedoms.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think this is a very important question for all communities, no matter whether it's a new community or well-established community. We live in a world in which diversity is increasing and lots of cross-cultural, religious relations emerge. Unfortunately, many people, they think that this diversity is a threat because their understanding of their own identity has been mostly based on what they are not instead of what they are.
There you go. So he wants diversity here in Britain, which is a very, very diverse country. But no one asks him about diversity in Iran, and he doesn't talk about diversity in Iran. And now going back to that Superintendent, Gregg Banks, look at what he says about dealing with extremism.
But for me, again, as part of that safeguarding peace, prevent is absolutely about all forms of extremism. So it doesn't matter what it is you might be drawn into.
So all forms of extremism, but he's sitting next to a representative of an extremist regime.
If you are vulnerable, and it's probably an overused word, it can mean a whole host of things for different people, but if you are, for whatever reason, drawn into any sort of extremist activity, whether it's to do with the ongoing conflict that we see in Northern Ireland, the conflicts we see in the Middle East, or indeed extreme right wing or left wing.
Extreme right wing again, extreme left wing, he says as well, but nothing about Islamic extremism because he's sitting next to an Islamic extremist. So, there you go. So, see, by sitting next to these extremists, this guy who's supposed to stop radicalisation, stop extremism and is paid a very high salary, he's actually making these people come across as mainstream. So he's actually helping radicalisation and extremism. He's not fighting it. And you see, this is what annoys me with these people and all these high salaries that are just so clueless. They wouldn't sit with Tommy Robinson, but they revel in mixing and socialising with the representative of a terrorist regime, a despotic regime. Despite all their education, Tommy Robinson knows more about Islam than they do. But never mind Tommy Robinson, they wouldn't even sit with me. I mean, if you want a dialogue with a terrorist regime, yeah, have one, but have a dialogue with the likes of me who oppose them as well. Maybe then by listening to both sides, you can make a better judgment. But this is the question I keep asking. Are these establishment figures just stupid or naive, or have they taken a backhander?